It was on fire.
Yeah, best to grab that before it damages it. You know?
I was just thinking, oh, I don't really need it, but.
Yeah, you don't want to make sure it damages in the heat.
Yeah, I know. Oh.
Alright, well, let's get started.
Yeah.
This will be a few first starters. This is my first time doing it on this map here. Usually we go outside. But since the heat, we're going to be in here.
There were people that are running on some of those pathways. They're idiots. I've taken care of people with heat stroke before as patients, and it's dangerous. Causes a lot of damage. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So this will be a little bit short. This will be about 30 minutes long, give or take. And well, this will be kind of informal since it's just two of y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is more.
That's good.
This is
Yes, yeah.
anyway, so, so also if you have any questions, please just interrupt me.
He will.
I know you will. We talked.
Did he?
Oh.
Please, if you have any questions, just all right. So first, you guys watched the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you're already pretty familiar with the battle, at least the first one that we'll be talking about today. So in 1861, the war officially begins with the firing of Fort Sumter in April. Lincoln calls on 75,000 men to reinforce and take back the rebel-controlled lands, rebel-controlled states, and they'll inevitably come to this field, which is represented on this beautiful map here. So, just to point out some quick landmarks before we get into any more bigger details. I'm going to take a step inside. This big river here, Big River, is Bull Run. It's really just a creek. Have you guys seen it?
That's how that's how it got its name, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not really a big creek, nor is it fast or deep, but you know, the biggest feature of it is that it has steep embankments.
Okay.
So it's hard to get wagons and artillery
Up and down.
horses across it. That's not on bridges or anything. Speaking of which, Stone Bridge is represented here, and that is where the first major engagement really occurs here, except for Blackburn's Ford, which is over yonder. I don't even know if it's on this map or not. So, but the next little feature is Stonehouse here, and Henry House.
That's right, Henry Hall.
Yeah.
Henry House.
That was a shame.
Real
I mean,
shame.
But then she wouldn't turn back. I mean, she wouldn't go anywhere else.
We're going to talk about that
That was her
a
choice.
little bit later. Yeah. I believe we're here. This is also represents kind of visitor center. It's a little bit here-ish. And Stonehouse right up there. So, to quickly go over the background of it, I'm sure especially you know.
Yeah.
But just to quickly go over it, Lincoln calls for that 75,000 men. Quick little fact about that is so many men actually come up to enlist that he has to turn some away because there's 100,000 or more that come up to enlist and put down the rebellion. But Lincoln actually sends a lot of them back home because, well, he doesn't think he needs to. There's this common preconception that the war is going to end rather quickly, either on one side or another. Both sides believe that they're going to win in one battle or another.
Just a few months.
Yeah, just a few months, and that's why 90 days, only 3 months. Who needs them much longer? But it takes a long time for these troops to be actually organized and ready to march down into the south. The first divisions that arrive here are Confederate. They arrive at Manassas Junction, about 5 miles south, around down here. A little visual. And the Union will arrive on this Sibley Road, or Warrenton Turnpike, and then move up down to Sibley Road. But the first engagement will happen at Blackbird's Ford, where 35 or so men die real far up north. It's not on the map, unfortunately, I don't think. So before, or right during that engagement, Johnston troops, about 20,000 total, or 12,000, excuse me, in the Shenandoah are being occupied by a Union force under General Patterson. General Patterson's goal is to keep Johnston occupied in the Shenandoah, while General Herbert McDowell, a newly ranked general, rather green, just like his men, don't really know the extent of the chaos about to happen, will be commanding his troops, about 35,000, to Manassas Junction to control the railroad. Now the railroad, I'm sure you know, is a rather important invention, still kind of new by this point, but it's growing in importance, especially as the military uses of it are really just being discovered here. In fact, the Confederacy are is the first nation in North America to use trains in a military manner. Johnston, as I mentioned previously, he's in the Shenandoah. He uses trains to redeploy his troops to Manassas Junction, about 5 miles down here, and to supplement BGT Beauregard's forces that have just arrived to Manassas Junction.
Excuse me, there's something I wanted to ask. We have the railroads, and this is a big railroad, caused a lot of the battles. So why didn't they use them to transfer the troops, or would the opposite side, shoot them? Was that the reason why? Was it dangerous?
It was, the biggest thing is that the trains have to go on, railroads. You can't move where
Right,
they are.
right.
So in that way, they were limited to where the railroads were.
But this one, we have a railroad here, right?
Yeah. The junction down south, that was controlled purely by Confederate troops.
Right.
So they were in no danger of Union, occupying
Getting through.
the line or anything. But that was the goal of McDowell. McDowell's goal was to take that railroad line for his own supply,
Okay, I see.
and to prevent just what you're talking about. To be his supply line being cutting off the Confederate supply line. So good question.
Thank you.
The Union troops will march from DC about 25 miles east or northeast, and will go onto Warrenton Turnpike. Now the troops of McDowell are just as green, as I mentioned earlier, as him commanding a large force, same as Confederates, but these troops are also very excited to actually be taking the fight to the Confederacy. I believe a quote from a Georgian infantry unit from the Confederate side taking defensive positions by Manassas actually represents this pretty well. It is the general impression that peace will be declared in about 80 days, and a soldier from Burnside's brigade, now just a minor general, commanding a brigade in McDowell's force, also says a soldier would be unbecoming of this campaign if he were not full of pleasure. So they were both very excited for this as they were marching towards Manassas, where they would fight. As we get closer to the days actually approaching the battle, I want to quickly mention that, let me get my order of notes all organized again. There we go. Now, the troops, as I mentioned before, would approach Stone Bridge and the Bull Run Creek, or run itself. There's multiple ways of saying it. I'm used to saying creek, but it's more.
We know what you mean, because we would call it that too.
Yeah.
We're from up north.
Oh, is it same here?
No, Pittsburgh.
Pennsylvania, or Lancaster.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's Lancaster, Parker. See?
Oh yeah.
Well, Lidditz, technically. Anyway, it's not me. No.
I get it.
Confederates are taking up the positions across fords and especially Stone Bridge here on the creek here, awaiting upcoming Union troops. Sorry, all over myself. The troops under McDowell have an idea to outflank the Confederate troops by going across an outlying road and down Sully Road. They engage a feint attack here on Stone Bridge, where where the majority of troops of the Confederates are holed up, and along a couple of other positions along the creek. Confederate forces are kind of aware that this seems to be a feint. In fact, the general or captain here at the Stone Bridge kind of believes that this is where's the numbers? The Union outnumbers us about 10,000 troops by this point. They should really be overrunning us at this point. What's going on? But then he gets a message, like he's getting a text message. No, he's getting signal flagged. Back then.
Oh, is that how they were getting?
Exactly.
Yes.
The telegraph wasn't real reliable yet.
Yes, exactly. And also, you need lines for that.
You saw
Yeah.
that. You saw that at
Structure.
Fredericksburg.
Fredericksburg.
Yeah, the telegraph machine.
But I was wondering, yeah, those runners aren't exactly reliable either, so I was just,
No, especially by this point.
yeah, okay, so it was the flags, got it.
Yeah, the Union troops will, sorry, the Confederate troops are get a message, especially by closer to Manassas Junction and down south here-ish, that they are, quote, being turned. Looking out for your left, you are turned. Military speak for you are being flanked on your left. So the corporal here, the Corporal Nathan Evans, leaves only a handful of men, really just to defend this position, and takes the remainder of his forces up north, around this forest here, a little bit north of Stone Bridge, to delay the incoming Union force. Now it is July 21st, and it's a hot day. There's no wind, it's dry, and these men are also, in their wool clothing, so I'm sure you've seen plenty of
Yeah, layers of it. I mean,
layers. Yeah.
Since it's July 21st, it's coming up the anniversary.
Yeah, it is.
Soon.
About a month. Less than a month now.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you, from someone who has done living history of all that, like clothing and stuff, it is awful. I can only imagine what they
My
went through
God, the
marching
clothes back
25
then.
miles from DC.
oh,
But they're still excited. They haven't seen combat yet, and they're because they've also heard stories from their grandparents, about the Revolutionary War,
Yeah.
hearing about independence. And so the Confederate troops are hearing this chatter, the Union forces are hearing about their stories of fighting tyranny, and they're about to clash here, really, in full force, just north of Stonehouse on Matthew Hill. Matthews Hill is really the beginning of the battle, I like to call it. Technically it's Stonebridge, but I like to say the real meat of the fight happens on Matthews Hill. This is where the majority of the fighting really begins. Union troops begin to pour over the fords all across the river. That's me saying that again. But the numbers by this point are 2-to-1 odds against the Confederates, as Johnson's troops are now just arriving from Manassas Junction in the Shenandoah.
2-to-1 against the Confederates? It
Against
seemed like there were so many more.
Union boys? Yeah.
I mean,
And the
I thought there
Union
was more
still
Southern.
lost.
Yes.
Yeah. Still lost this battle. And if you want to know, the full numbers of the battle are about 35,000 men for the Union, but only 18,000 are engaged-ish. Again,
The Union.
real general numbers here. But
The Union screwed, the Union lost.
this battle?
Yeah.
Yes. And the Confederate Army is about 30,000 men, but 10,000 of that number are being trickled in by train. They still have to go back to the Shenandoah and then come back and forth. And again, only around 18,000 are engaged by the point of the battle, around afternoon-ish. So, fighting on Matthew Hill is still is erupting at this point. 2-to-1 odds, but the Confederates actually still are holding. The defender has a natural advantage. Union has to come to them, and they managed to hold back the large amount of Union forces up by the Manassas Hill. But again, the weight of numbers doesn't wear you down, and the Confederates start retreating from first Manassas Hill.
We saw that Matthews Hill.
Huh?
We saw that Matthews Hill.
Oh yeah, yep. Manassas Hill.
When the
from Manassas
Union
Hill.
charged at them and they were retreating.
Exactly. And they retreated through Stonehouse. Have you been to Stonehouse? It's a quick side note.
No.
The stone down.
No.
No. Here, is that here?
Yes.
No. I don't do anything where I had to get up.
I saw the
Sorry.
stone.
No,
I saw the
that's,
stone house
it's just
in
down
the
here.
Yeah, we
distance.
saw it.
Okay.
but we didn't go into it.
It is open, just for your knowledge. I do recommend it if you want to brave the heat for about like 5 minutes. There's a parking lot down there.
I'm really feeling it that I don't usually, but this is. Okay.
Yes. Back to
Yeah.
the
That's the subject.
Now, a couple notable names in this battle are I've noted for Burnside, he'll become a notable Union general. Same as General Sherman. He's
Sherman.
Also here. He leads a brigade.
William T.
Jackson
Sherman.
comes near the end.
Oh, Sherman was, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I thought you said and then on the Confederate side, we have
Bodyguard.
Jackson.
Bodyguard.
Sorry.
That bodyguard guy. That other one.
Beauregard.
Yeah, Bogart.
Beauregard, yes.
Bogart.
He's actually the main commander of this force.
Oh.
At this point, he has his he has his headquarters down here-ish. I don't know why it's not on this map. Yeah,
And that other that other commander, Johnston.
Johnston, yes, exactly. He's kind of like his second in command at this point. Another notable name is General Bernard B. He's the one that gives Jackson his immortal nickname of Stonewall. We'll get to that in just a moment.
He
Now,
stands like a
the
stand
Confederate
stone.
forces are retreating to Henry Hill, and Jackson's forces have just now created a line on Henry Hill. Did I say Jackson now? I meant Henry Hill.
Yeah.
Jackson creates a line on Henry Hill against a forest line here. You can actually go to that now. It's where that Confederate line of artillery is, just onto our left here. Well, my left, your right. And that's where him and about 2,500 men are stationed, and he's going to defend that hill with his 13 cannons, 2,500 men, and just stubbornness, essentially. McDowell, seeing his victory on Henry Hill, or Matthew Hill, his name's mixed up, apologies, Matthew Hill, he sees that kind of victory is already here. In fact, some of his men are already shouting, victory, victory, day is won, etc., etc.
Oh my God, no.
Wrong.
Yes, wrong. And the Union, specifically an artillery brigade led by Captain Ricketts and Captain Griffins, are sent up to Henry Hill to bombard the retreating Confederates. Now, McDowell doesn't really know by this point that the Confederates have a line here on Henry Hill. He just thinks they're kind of scattering about down south. So the artillery will be for easy pickings for the artillery. The artillery is set up without any cavalry or infantry support, and they set up a line about here-ish, just over the crest of the hill, near Sully Road. Here by Stone House, we have Henry House. That is where Judith Henry lived, and you already heard the story where she got she was wounded in a shelling of her house because in the initial part of the battle, Griffin's men, or two cannons, are set up and fire on the house itself, believing Confederate forces are using it as cover or using it to shoot from there. We don't know what's true or not about it, but we do know that the house was destroyed at the end of this battle.
I noticed that her little aide, her little girl, she had working with her sheep. Her she didn't get a shot at all. She returned up because they showed her in the picture.
She just wanted to return to the house. But I'm like, she's
No, what I'm
crazy.
saying is, her whatever name is, she got shot
Right.
You know, but her little aide, her little girl that she had there, that was working with her, I guess she's a slave. But the little African American, she was not.
Right. I believe she was unharmed. I think she was.
The picture, I mean, whenever they had, the picture
Yeah.
showed her just.
Yeah, servants and slaves, especially at that time, were often included if they're house servants or house slaves.
Yeah.
This was not exactly a plantation house where they wouldn't have done that, but for an individual servant, like a house slave,
Yeah.
they would have been in family photos. Because, for example, the children would have lived with them, you know, so they
Yeah.
were considered a part of the family, despite being a slave.
Yeah, she, yeah.
You know, I don't think she's buried though, out where.
Yeah, I don't think it's, the
I
film
don't
didn't
think they
say.
are. I think it's just Jude Henry and her daughter and son out there. Yeah, good question. So yeah, an engagement here. Henry House is kind of destroyed at the end of this by the end of this engagement. But the artillery then focuses fire on Jackson's line here. Yeah, that's where he stood like a stone wall. That's where he gets his name. Bernard Lee, one of the commanding captains for the Confederates, his division was one of the ones that got destroyed up near Matthew Hill. He's trying to rally his men as they're retreating behind Jackson's line. And one of the lines he says is, "There stands Jackson like a stone wall, let's go to his assistance." Now, did he actually say that? We don't actually know, because he dies, unfortunately, during this battle. I believe he's shot in the heart.
Oh my God.
I believe so.
The heart. Oh my God.
He was rather quick for him, I guess. It's unfortunate, though, as he will never be able to tell
The truth
the
about
truth
this.
of what he said. There's another account stating that he's reprimanding Jackson, like, "There stands Jackson like a damn stone wall," you know, stuff like that. We don't know what he said.
We don't know what
but
he said.
But the one that is commonly said is, "Let us go to his assistance first." So that's how Jackson gets his immortal name.
It is immortal.
Certainly, especially with that big Herculean statue out there.
Yeah.
Not representative of Jackson the man.
No.
If we were outside, I would go into the history of the statue after this if you would want.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Well, he might, but.
So yeah, Jackson is standing there like a stone wall, taking the artillery fire and his men are taking casualties. But here he still stands, and then when a number of Johnson's reinforcements arrive from Manassas Junction, he orders a bayonet charge across the hill. And that is when B is killed. That is when Bartow, I believe, is killed, and a number of the worst casualties happen during that charge, at least for the Confederate side. However, they do overtake the Union artillery line. They manage to capture the cannons. And by this point, Union infantry have arrived down the southern road. They're around here-ish, and then that's when they get the word to countercharge. And the cannons are tossed back and forth, essentially, the remainder of the afternoon, until the last two fresh Union regiments arrive on the field. Now, you may be wondering if the engagement numbers are so lopsided. What happened here? Why did the Union win? Well, the Union sends a brigade one by one, essentially, into the meat grinder of all the Confederate guns at once. So they're just sending kind of a trickle into a stream. That's how best way to describe it. Those last two fresh regiments, one of them is led by Sherman, and his regiment is actually the last one to engage combat up on Henry Hill. Another one is sent to Chin Ridge, which is around here-ish, just about a mile and a half, or half a mile, depending where you count, to flank the Confederate supply line. However, Confederate troops are already there and block the force and send all the rest of the Union troops running back to DC. Fun fact I like to say is that it took about 2.5 days from DC to reach Manassas. It took 19 hours to retreat from Manassas to back to DC.
Okay.
They're retreating.
Retreating, yes, running for their lives.
Yeah.
Now, you may think, it's like, man, the Confederates must be on their tail. Not really. This victory really disorganized the Confederates a lot. So much that they didn't have the steam to chase the Union back. They also didn't have enough cavalry to really do so in any major capacity. Another quick mention is that you may hear this a lot about civilians watching the battle.
Yeah.
At least for the Union, that would happen near Centerville, way over here, and they would have seen smoke, maybe heard some cannon firings. It would have been really difficult to see much action. The Confederate forces in Manassas proper actually would have actually seen the
And
combat.
they brought picnic lunches.
Yeah.
Why would they?
Some may
Why
have.
were they watching the first battle?
First wax battle, what they thought. It was
Yeah,
wax battle.
right.
But then the Union lost, and then
Woohoo.
they still kept on fighting though. This battle would reinforce the Union drive for victory against the Confederate forces. And this battle also is really big in Confederate history for, well, they won the first battle. This is why the Battle of Manassas is, well, at least for this park, is called Manassas Park. That is a name that the Confederates give to the location. People from up north call it Battle of Bull Run, but the Union lost, so they don't get to name it. Sort of way, at least that's how the Park Service kind of regulates it. Give or
Makes
take.
sense, though.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah.
Depending on what location. That rule isn't 100%. There are some locations that are flip-flop. But
Did you hear what he said? Did
Yeah.
you understand?
yeah, so that is more or less the general history of the battle. Mostly the troop movements and all that. If we were outside, I'll go into more about the history of the monuments. That's more my thing. But
Surely you don't want to go outside.
I don't want to go outside.
No.
I would though. Yeah.
You wouldn't. What did I tell you?
I mean, if you want, I can go outside with you and just point them out. I'm not
Sure.
Gonna walk, I'm not gonna walk,
Sure, why not?
But
Sure.
okay.
You can stay here.
Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna make myself
I'm just gonna point them out to you.
Thanks. Cause
You can search for them on your own.
yeah, cause McDowell got replaced by General Pope,
Yep.
and then George McClellan.
All right.
Was Pope a good general? Like,
Sorry. I don't know that much about his history, about his military history, to be perfectly honest. I think he was okay general, from my knowledge, but
Yeah.
about the monuments. So, it is so humid out here. All right. So usually I would start here at this first cannon,
Yeah.
and then we'd walk to the Jackson Monument over there.
Mhm.
If there's any monument to see, I would recommend the Jackson Monument.
wow.
It's just because.
What are those over there?
That is where I would end my tour usually. That is the Patriots Monument that was built by Union soldiers right after, well, actually still during the war in 1865 after Lee's surrender.
So what if the monuments disappeared?
Fire alarm. It's
Oh.
because of the heat. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, we should probably go.
Are you sure?
I can quickly tell you.
Yeah.
So and then there's another monument. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head right now, but it's by that tree in the middle of that one and that far back one.
Yeah.
It dips down and there's a monument down there that talks about a Confederate general.
Oh my God.
Let's go back. Let's go around. The building, just so your grandmother. Or
Yeah.
or-
Fire alarm?